Please subscribe to Bear Nerd Fund. Smash the like button. Goodbye.
Hail to all, where we do not kneel. Hail to all. Hail to all. Now come on, Hollywood. Stop smelling your own farts. You might get mistaken for arse sniffers. Remember, when you go woke, you go broke. Hail to the fandom mass. Hail to all. How's everyone doing? Well, I was supposed to make this video yesterday, but I discovered that my screen capture program clashes with Windows 10 Professional. Basically, it has the Windows Store. Here, let me do this. Yeah, I can't move that box, unfortunately. Yeah, but basically the Windows Store, you can install a Voodoo app. And when I installed that Voodoo app, it installed a whole bunch of stuff from Flash to the things that make that particular software work. But apparently it clashed. It clashed big time with this program. It unregistered my mic. The only thing that would find my mic was Microsoft Mic Recorder. So I just did a restore point back to the 25th. Solved. So, The Rise of Skywalker echoes a classic Star Wars novel. A theory on Star Destroyers, non-canon crossovers, and the Thrawn trilogy. You know, I read those books. Those books were awesome. I mean, look at that, man. That's a lot of OG Star Destroyers. Coffee good. Except when you breathe your coffee. So, there's a moment in the latest teaser for Star Wars The Rise of Skywalker that made me sit up and go, huh? At the 120 mark, we see a fleet of resistant fighters and capital ships drop out of hyperspace. And seconds later, we get a glimpse of a massive fleet of Star Destroyers. It looks as though the scene is teeing up a massive confrontation between the Resistance and the First Order. First off, I think the fact that they used the word resistance, it's stupid. But now it makes sense because George Lucas 25%. The theory that's going around that he gets 25%, and the fact that Disney has gone out of their way to not use anything original Star Wars. So maybe that's why they use the word resistance instead of rebels. Right? So they're no longer rebels, they're the resistance. Yeah, there was a resistance in the TV series V, the original TV series V, Visitors. And then they rebooted that series again, and it was pretty good. I liked it. It was okay. I like the science fiction stuff and the spaceships and all that stuff, but it was alright. Basically, it was a TV show about insurgency. Basically. And, yeah. So, resistance. I still think that's just... It doesn't jive, doesn't mix well, I don't think. Back to the article. But when you look a little closer, something's off. Something that gives me vibes of one of the earlier Star Wars novels, Timothy Zahn's Dark Force Rising. When we see the fleet of Star Destroyers, dozens of them, they're parked in rows, lights off. Moreover, they aren't hulking resurgent class Star Destroyers that we've seen the First Order use in The Force Awakens and The Last Jedi. Wow, resurgent class Star Destroyers. Interesting. In a morbid kind of interesting way. These look like the classic Imperial-class Star Destroyers of A New Hope, Empire Strikes Back, and Return of the Jedi. Ships we've seen crash in the deserts of Jakku, but were phased out in the years since the Empire fell. Cue rampant speculation. Good question. The Resistance was hit hard at the end of The Last Jedi. You mean the badly written Last Jedi? That killed off Luke Skywalker. There's even a theory going around that he was dead before The Last Jedi happened, and that we were actually watching a Force Ghost without the blue glow. That's another theory floating around. The First Order attack decimated its Dakar headquarters, and pursuing forces chased them off into space, picking off their ships one by one until a final confrontation of a distant world named Crate. Yeah, Crate. Sort of like a wooden box that you put stuff in, then you crate it away. Well, but this is the name of a planet named Crate. Yeah. A place that we've never been to in Star Wars that no one's ever heard of. Yeah. While Leia, Poe, Rey, and Finn, and a handful of their companions were able to escape no matter what, they'd spend some time in the aftermath licking their wounds. There's another reference to that book, Aftermath, right there. Clever. Licking their wounds and looking to replenish their forces and allies. Subsequent Star Wars novels backspire, The Resistance Reborn, promise to fill the gap between the two films. Is there nothing in Disney Star Wars that's original? They took the name Resistance from the name of the frickin' book. From the name of a book. I mean, that is the name of a book right there, right? Yeah. Yeah, Resistance Reborn. To fill the gap between the two films. That the fleet of Star Destroyers harkens back to another story from the Star Wars universe. Timothy Zahn's famous, beloved, and now non-canon Thrawn trilogy. But yet, they brought Thrawn into Rebels animation show. That's canon. And the Clone Wars, all the stuff that's happened there has been canon. So, it's okay for them to co-opt stuff from the EU and do a really hack job on some of the awesome writing that Timothy Zahn did in the Thrawn trilogy. Back to the article. From the early 90s, 5 years after Return of the Jedi, the New Republic had been largely able to take over the galaxy. But when Zahn picks up with the galaxy heir to the Empire, and our heroes face cunning Grand Admiral, who uses his tactical genius to marshal the remaining divided Imperial forces to restore the Empire. At the end of Dark Force Rising, the location of the lost fleet of Clone Wars era ships, which have been sitting in the depths of space for decades, waiting to be recovered and put to use, threatens to tip the scale. on either side. Yep. I'm pretty sure that I either have the hardbacks to these, or I have hardback and paperback and a hardback, or something like that. I definitely have these books. They're in storage. I believe I have digital copies as well. The Katana fleet was a force of 200 dreadnought cruisers, led by advanced flagships. The Katana, which controlled the other 199 ships. Unfortunately, the crew of the ship went mad and jumped into hyperspace, where they became lost. When Luke Skywalker and Han Solo eventually get the location from a smuggler, they undertook an unauthorized mission to scout out the fleet. At first, all he could see was the normal scattering of stars, archingly bright against the total blackness around them. And then he saw them, a soft glow in the ship's running lights. His eyes traced the empty space between them, his brain forcing a pattern to the lights, and suddenly the image coalesced. It's a dreadnought, all right. There's another one just past it, Han said, and 3 more to the port and a little below. The ships ultimately play a bigger role in the fight between Thrawn and the New Republic, and it makes for a very good story. A lost fleet, 2 sides desperate for supremacy, and a race to locate and put them to use. Zahn's Thrawn trilogy, like the rest of the pre-Disney era novels, is no longer canon, but that hasn't stopped Lucasfilm from recycling parts that it could put to use. Yeah, basically they're raiding the cupboards. Past ideas in these books. They're raiding the cupboards of these ideas and concepts and stories. And I use the term raid because they're just stealing them from themselves, because they own it, I think. But we haven't seen a contract between George Lucas and Disney. I've said it before, I would love to see that contract. Yep. I would love to see it. Recycling parts it could put to use. Star Wars has notoriously embraced ideas, design concepts, and stories throughout its history. And 3 years ago, Grand Admiral Thrawn, one of the franchise's best villains, triumphantly reappeared as the chief protagonist for Star Wars Rebels, complete with an origin story and sequels from Zahn himself. That's about. Yeah, but he's the sequels. The Verge, them. Other elements of Star Wars expanded universe been recycled as well. Minor things like starships in Rebels, the TIE fighters seen in the X-Wing novels, or the Quasar Fire class bulk cruiser from the Truce at Baccarat. 2 larger plot beats in the sequel trilogy, like Han and Leia getting married and having children, the one of the kids falling to the dark side. Chuck Wendig's canon novel Aftermath, Life Dead, drops in an interesting detail about a potential lost Imperial fleet. 75% of the Star Destroyers in service before Endor can capably be tracked to similar fates, destroyed, captured, lost in confirmable if curious ways. But a full quarter of those ships cannot be accounted for. This story, fleeting glimpse of ships, is the latest Rise of Skywalker trailer. Certainly isn't proof that the film is drawing inspiration from Zahn's nearly 30-year-old novel. But I don't think it's something that can be disregarded out of hand. The sequel trilogy has continuously updated its designs for everything from stormtroopers to TIE and X-Wing fighters to Star Destroyers. Yeah. So they don't have to pay that 25%. They don't have to pay royalties. Now, I just wish George Lucas would come out and say, hey, this is what I get. I wish he'd come out and just say it. Seeing the older Star Destroyers parked with lights out makes me think that they're more than just for a dramatic space battle. Whatever their role, we'll find out on December 20th, The Rise of Skywalker in theaters. I wonder what some of these commenters got to say. Alright, this was my thought as well. That's the fleet that was stored in mothballs out of the Outer Rim. I'm guessing somehow the Empire loses track of them, potentially when Thrawn and Ezra head out there. In the forming of the First Order, and the Resistance is able to make use of them to supply their forces. After the spark in The Last Jedi, I'm guessing they have no shortage of people, just no ships for them to fly. Not anymore. And the destroyers are filled with lizards that nullify a Jedi's Force ability if they get too close. Yeah. Hell of a comment. That was a plot device in some of the books, EU books. And there was a tree also. I don't know about the lizard for sure, but there was trees that nullified force powers too. I'm surprised you mentioned all the ideas adapted from Legends and not mentioned the most obvious one. Ben being adapted from Jaken. I always called him Jaken, but people call him Jason. Leia and Han's son, who was Jedi, who turned to the dark side. Yeah, he became Darth Caedus or something like that. Became a de facto leader of the government that actively hunts down Jedi and his parents. He even killed someone who married into the Skywalkers, albeit Mara, his aunt, rather than Han, his father. Hell, considering the upcoming final confrontations, we can even bring Ben and Jason Jaina links here, except Rey is probably not Ben's sister. Emphasis on probably. Coffee good. To larger plot beats in the sequel trilogy, like Han and Leia getting married and having children, the one of the kids falling to the dark side. I think they covered it. Yeah, they stole it from the EU. Couldn't come up with no ideas on their own. And so when they co-opted stuff, they had to change it. What was that TV show where they say they love to change things, engineers? It was a TV show or a movie. I think it was Star Trek. One of the Star Treks. Yeah, I'm getting old. Memories getting burnt. Yep. So yeah. Hail to the Phantom Menace. Now come on, Hollywood. Stop smelling your own farts. You might get mistaken for arse sniffers. Remember, when you go woke, you go broke.
Please subscribe to Bear Nerd Fun. Smash the like button. Goodbye.
Say hello. Hello. Say hello. Say nerd fun. Nerd fun. Nerd fun. Say goodbye. Goodbye. Hail to the fandom mass.